What drives a killer to commit such horrific acts? How did one individual evade capture while terrorizing the streets of Victorian London? And most intriguingly, who was Jack the Ripper? These questions have puzzled investigators, historians, and armchair detectives for over a century. Today, we dive deep into one of history's most infamous unsolved mysteries, the chilling tale of Jack the Ripper. Welcome to our channel, where we uncover the most captivating true crime stories. In this episode, we'll explore the dark alleys of Whitechapel, dissect the gruesome crimes, and unravel the theories surrounding the elusive identity of Jack the Ripper. Buckle up, because this is not just a story, it's a journey into the heart of terror. Chapter 1: The Backdrop of Whitechapel. To understand the chilling tale of Jack the Ripper, we must first glimpse Whitechapel, London, in 1888. This overcrowded district in the East End was a warren of narrow, dimly lit streets where poverty and despair reigned. Life was harsh, families crammed into squalid tenements, while the air carried the stench of waste and despair. Work was scarce, and for many women, the streets and prostitution became their only lifeline. Crime was rampant, and cheap gin offered fleeting escape, fueling violence and desperation. At night, the shadows deepened, and the area grew menacing, a perfect hunting ground for a predator. Amid this grim setting, an anonymous killer emerged. Known as Jack the Ripper, he preyed on vulnerable women, leaving a trail of brutal murders that shocked not only Whitechapel but the entire city. His legacy of terror would remain etched in history, a dark enigma of unanswered questions and fear. Chapter 2: The Canonical Five. Jack the Ripper's grim legacy is anchored in the murders of 5 women, collectively known as the Canonical Five. These brutal killings, occurring between August and November of 1888, shook Whitechapel to its core. Each murder was marked by escalating violence, painting a macabre portrait of a killer whose savagery stunned even the most hardened residents of this impoverished district. Marion Nichols. The nightmare began on August 31, 1888, when the body of Marion Nichols was discovered. Her throat had been deeply slashed, and her abdomen bore jagged, gaping wounds. The violence of the attack hinted at the killer's rage and a chilling disregard for life. Investigators, though accustomed to crime in Whitechapel, were unprepared for the sheer brutality they faced. Annie Chapman. A mere week later, on September 8, 1888, Annie Chapman became the Ripper's next victim. Her mutilated body was found in a yard, with organs gruesomely removed. The precision of the dismemberment suggested not just rage but also a methodical nature, leading many to speculate about the killer's background and motives. Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. On the night of September 30, 1888, the Ripper committed what became infamously known as the double event. Elizabeth Stride was killed first, her throat slashed. However, the absence of further mutilation suggested the killer may have been interrupted. Undeterred, he struck again within the hour. Catherine Eddowes' body was discovered shortly after, her face and abdomen horrifically mutilated. The escalation of violence in Eddowes' murder revealed the depths of the Ripper's depravity. Mary Jane Kelly. The Ripper's final known victim, Mary Jane Kelly, met her tragic end on November 9, 1888. Found in her own rented room, her body had been mutilated to an extent far worse than any of the previous victims. The brutality of this attack left even seasoned investigators shaken, as it marked the apex of the Ripper's reign of terror. Each crime scene bore the hallmarks of Jack the Ripper's work: calculated precision, overwhelming rage, and a grotesque pattern of dismemberment. The Ripper's ability to evade capture despite the escalating violence only deepened the mystery, leaving behind a legacy of fear, fascination, and unanswered questions. Chapter 3: The Investigation. The brutal murders unleashed a wave of terror throughout London, igniting a storm of fear and speculation. The newly established Metropolitan Police, already under scrutiny for its effectiveness, faced mounting pressure to apprehend the killer. Whitechapel's residents, gripped by panic, demanded swift justice, while the press fanned the flames with lurid headlines that captured the public's imagination. Investigators combed the labyrinthine streets of Whitechapel, questioning locals, following every lead, and analyzing evidence from the gruesome crime scenes. Doctors were enlisted to provide insight into the killer's methods, with some suggesting he possessed anatomical knowledge, potentially hinting at a background in surgery or butchery. Despite these efforts, the Ripper seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to vanish without a trace. The dense fog, dimly lit streets, and chaotic atmosphere of Whitechapel provided the perfect cover for his heinous acts, frustrating police efforts at every turn. The case took an even darker turn with the arrival of several taunting letters, allegedly from the killer himself. One letter, addressed to the Central News Agency and signed Jack the Ripper, not only gave the murderer his infamous name but also deepened the sense of dread. Another, known as the From Hell letter, was accompanied by a grisly token, a piece of human kidney, believed to have been taken from one of his victims. These letters, whether authentic or the work of a cruel hoaxer, fueled the hysteria and further confounded the investigation. The police pursued countless suspects, from local criminals to prominent figures, but each lead ended in frustration. The lack of reliable forensic science and the social chaos of Whitechapel made identifying the killer an almost insurmountable challenge. Jack the Ripper became not just a murderer but a specter of fear, a ghost haunting the darkened streets, always one step ahead of those who sought to stop him. Chapter 4: Theories and Suspects. Who was Jack the Ripper? Over the years, countless theories have emerged, and the list of suspects has grown to include some surprising names. Montague John Druitt, a barrister with a troubled history, Druitt's death shortly after the last murder led some to believe he was the killer. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant and barber, Kosminski was known to have mental health issues and lived near the murder sites. DNA evidence from a shawl linked to Catherine Eddowes has pointed to him, but the findings remain controversial. Walter Sickert, a painter fascinated by the Ripper case, Sickert became a suspect due to his eerie artwork and alleged confessions in private letters. A royal conspiracy. Some theories suggest that Prince Albert Victor, grandson of Queen Victoria, was involved, either directly or through a cover-up to protect his reputation. Despite these theories, no conclusive evidence has ever surfaced, leaving the Ripper's identity one of history's greatest enigmas. Chapter 5: The Legacy of Fear. Jack the Ripper's reign of terror was brief but left an indelible mark on history. His crimes not only revealed the vulnerabilities of Victorian London but also highlighted the limitations of early forensic science. The case continues to captivate the public, inspiring books, movies, and even tours of Whitechapel. But beyond the fascination lies a sobering truth: the Ripper's victims were real women whose lives were tragically cut short. Their stories remind us of the human cost behind the mystery. Chapter 6: Why was he never caught? Many factors contributed to the Ripper's ability to evade capture. The lack of modern forensic techniques, the chaotic environment of Whitechapel, and the police force's inexperience with such a prolific killer all played a role. Additionally, the Ripper's elusive tactics. Adding to the investigators' frustrations was the Ripper's apparent familiarity with Whitechapel's intricate layout. The district's maze-like streets, narrow alleys, and hidden corners became his perfect hunting ground. It seemed as though he moved through the shadows with precision, vanishing before anyone could even glimpse his face. This intimate knowledge, combined with his calculated methods and the lack of reliable eyewitnesses, turned Whitechapel into his personal stage of terror, where he remained an unseen phantom. The mystery lives on. As our exploration of Jack the Ripper's haunting story draws to a close, one undeniable truth remains: the mystery persists, as unsettling and compelling as ever. Who was the man, or perhaps the woman, behind the infamous name? What dark compulsion drove such brutal acts? And why did the killing spree suddenly end, leaving investigators and the public grappling with a puzzle that remains unsolved to this day? Perhaps the enigma of Jack the Ripper will forever remain hidden in the fog of history. Yet, his story serves as a chilling reflection on the shadows that linger in humanity's soul and a tribute to the relentless efforts of those who seek justice for the forgotten. The Ripper's victims may have been silenced, but their stories, and the questions surrounding them, continue to echo through time. If you found this journey into history's darker corners intriguing, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth crime documentaries. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you think Jack the Ripper really was? Share your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.